I'm going to tell you the story of how I failed my first React project. This story is kind of unfortunate. This was for a real client with real money involved, and ultimately it ended up with us parting ways, never speaking again, and me leaving about $25,000 on the table. Let's talk about it. So let me start by saying that this happened many years ago when I was just starting out to become a software developer, and actually I had about 3 months of experience at the time of this story. I basically committed to learning React full time. I knew a bit of HTML and CSS and some Python for the backend, but I wanted to become a front-end developer with React. I actually picked up React and JavaScript quite quickly, I have to say now thinking back, and in those 3 months I was already building full-stack applications, and honestly I felt pretty good about myself. So naturally, the next step was to start getting paid for it, right? Because up until that point, the applications that I was building were personal projects. I wasn't actually making any money from them. So I go online and I try to find someone that may need an application to be built with React. I eventually come in contact with these two founders who had an on-demand babysitting booking service. Essentially, if you had a kid and you needed a babysitter last minute, you could go ahead and book that on their platform. Now, their business was already running. It was generating revenue every month, and they also already had a web app that was built with WordPress by an overseas company. The only problem with their web app was that it was unperformant, it was built with old technologies, and it was very difficult to maintain. So they wanted to rebuild it from scratch with a more modern technology, something like React, right? Which meant that I was their guy. So then we started talking about details, timelines, payments, etc. And honestly, I was really excited because for me, this was my first ever paid project. I legit thought that I had made it as a developer. Now, obviously, there was a catch, right? It wasn't as easy as I made out to be. And also, you've seen the title of this video. I basically failed this project. The catch was that there was a deadline, and that deadline wasn't friendly. They were scheduled to appear on a local version of the show Shark Tank, which if you don't know is essentially a show where you can go and you can pitch your startup and you might get investments from one of the sharks. Now the thing is, even if you don't get an investment, the mere exposure of being on that show is going to drive a lot of eyeballs to your business and potential clients. Unfortunately though, the show was scheduled to air 2 months after our first initial meeting. Yeah. So I took the project with the biggest confidence of my life. I essentially told them that, of course I can do it. This is going to be easy. 2 months, that's a lot of time. And I got straight to work. And man, was this the most stressful period of my life. I was literally working 12 to 14 to 16-hour days, literally getting up from bed, going to work straight away, only taking a break to eat and shower maybe, and then working until the night, going to sleep, waking up, and doing it all over again. I don't know if you realize how little time 2 months is to build a full stack application, especially having only 3 months of software development experience. I was building the front end, the back end, the database, the server, the infrastructure, and on top of that, they also gave me to build their marketing landing page. Not only that, but in a startup, things usually change. And as I was building out this project, as the deadline was approaching closer and closer, they kept making changes to the app. They wanted me to change this button, to change this functionality, to move this from there, and obviously that slowed me down. Nonetheless, 2 months later, I finished the application. I'm honestly not sure to this day how I did it, but somehow I managed to finish it. And I thought that was it. I thought that the stress would be over because the application was built. I could go back to being at peace. But little did I know that another period of even greater stress was just about to come. Because the fact was that up until that point, the only people that actually used the app was me. The only people that saw the code and worked with the code was me. And so all of the bugs that I was seeing, right, they were limited because I was the only one using this app. But then when we launched, that changed. We pointed the domain from the old app to this new app, and then all of their customers that were using the app every single day were now suddenly using mine. And man, I kid you not, from literally the first minutes of launching, we started getting bugs. And these were real bugs. Like I launched the app, I pointed the domain to the new server, and 5 minutes later, the founder writes to me saying that someone is complaining that they can't book a babysitter. There's an error when they try to pay. And then she also tests it just to make sure that it's not something related to that client, and then it's also not working for her, which essentially means that we launched this app with the payments not working. The payments being a core functionality of a booking platform were not working within the 5 minutes of launch. What followed after that was months of bigger stress and bug fixes because literally every day something else was wrong with the app. People were being charged wrong amounts. They were seeing wrong amounts on their invoices. They were booking babysitters that were not available. And all of this was causing actual problems for the business and even costing them money. You cannot believe the amount of stress that I went through in that period, and also with the whole development. Essentially, this entire experience was stressful and it was a horrible experience. I do not recommend this on anyone. And even though I did learn quite a lot of things and it's made me a better developer, if you can avoid this, I would strongly recommend that you do so. In the end, this was too much for me. I couldn't really take it anymore, and also I stopped believing in the project that it was ever going to be successful, so I decided to quit early and take my losses and move on with my life. Now, regarding the payment and that $25,000 that I mentioned, initially my fee for this project was to be $30,000. But because at the time they didn't really have the capital to pay $30,000 for a developer, they decided to make me a deal that would pay me every month a certain amount over a certain amount of time. The only clause was that there was a 1-year cliff, which meant that for the first 12 months, I was not to receive anything. Which means that I went through all of this stress, all of this effort, all of this PTSD, honestly, for no pay whatsoever. It is what it is. This was my first project. I didn't know any better, so I took it. And then we made a deal. They gave me $5,000 for the work that I had done, and I left the other $25,000 lost on the table because honestly, I didn't really believe that I would ever see that money anyways. And if you're curious, the business is actually still running. They had to do some pivots along the way to kind of adjust to the market, but they are still running, just not with my code. The moment that I left, they killed my code, they got another developer, they rebuilt the app from scratch once again, and my code now only lives on my computer. It's no longer available to the world, which honestly I think that it's a good thing. So there you go. That's the story of how I failed my first React project. If you've enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave it a big thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe because it helps me out a lot and it shows me that you enjoy my content and that you want to see more of these types of videos. If you still haven't joined the Discord, honestly, what are you doing? It's the first link in the description. I would check it out, especially if you're interested in React, if you're learning React, if you want to network with other React developers. This is the best resource that is available out there. I promise you, it's the first link in the description. I would check it out. And with that being said, my name has been There's Cousin. This is Cousin Solutions. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Ciao, ciao.